Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Conspiracy Truth Finders with me, Bob Kiviat. Well, today we have a show that is like 2 or 3 years in the making. Initially, I thought I would end up doing a documentary series, and I believe I will be. This is going to be on something called the Mandela Effect. And the Mandela Effect is something that it's actually hard to believe. And this is pretty much the title card of the documentary series treatment that is now being passed around Hollywood and New York. And with any luck, as we say in the business, there'll be a documentary series. One of the people that we will bring on this show, if we get lucky enough, or we'll invite on, of course, is a gentleman I'm going to introduce in a minute. He is an expert on the Mandela Effect, and he's basically experienced the Mandela Effect. But before I introduce our great guest, let me just explain to everyone today what the Mandela Effect is. Sometime around 9-10 years ago, a woman named Fiona Broome was at a conference. She's a paranormal researcher, a writer, someone trying to, just look into mysteries. And she came across people at a conference that felt that Nelson Mandela, the famous South African apartheid crusader, these people she was talking to believed Mandela had died in prison. And history has shown us that in our world, anyway, our timeline, if you will, that Nelson Mandela left prison, came out, was a prime minister of South Africa, and literally brought on the end of apartheid, a major hero in the world. These people remembered he died in prison and never got out. They also remembered, you may remember the famous shot at Tiananmen Square in China, where a protester years ago stood in front of a tank and blocked the tank from coming into the city when the communists were trying to crack down on freedom desires. Well, some people remembered literally that person getting run over by the tank. That never happened. And a lot of other stories she researched after that, I should say. And she found there was many people who remembered things differently, movie scenes differently, products with different names, different logos, the world being slightly different to many people. So she started to research it, and she found it to be an amazing thing, a mystery. People around the world were seeing it. Now it grew and grew and grew, and I got involved around 2017 or so, started to really analyze it, and I couldn't believe how many examples there were that I remembered certain things that were changed. Movie scenes, famous scenes were now different than I thought they were at one point. So now I'm trying to get the documentary series made to find out what the truth is. So one of the people that has been doing a lot of this research, his name is Michael Klein. He also goes by he's a hip hop artist as well, goes by the name Mr. Hyde. Michael, welcome to the show.
Hey, man, I appreciate you for having me. How's it going?
My pleasure. So, Michael, before we get into the litany, a list of apparent changes to our current timeline, if you will. And I might say, just to tell everybody here, that we know, Michael and I, as researching people, that the theories are that possibly some scientific experiments, especially at the CERN particle collider in Switzerland, or that border area of Switzerland, they may have been screwing around with quantum physics and maybe even involve something called the D-wave quantum computer. And they kind of edited history. So anyway, before we get into the causes and what might have happened and then look at the evidence before that, Michael, tell me, how did you get involved in the Mandela Effect and what happened with you? Just tell us your little story, if you might add.
Sure. Well, it was around like 2012, 2013, somewhere in there. I experienced the first one, and it had to do with Star Wars. You know, I'm a very big Star Wars fan, and to me, there's just no way, you know, it could have been changed, you know, and like, you know, it goes from James Earl Jones being Darth Vader and his famous quote from Empire Strikes
Yeah,
Back.
let me just kind of, I'm just want to interrupt for 1 second, Michael, and say that we're going to go through this list, but what he's saying, what Michael's bringing up right now, might be one of the most important first. If I was going to go to a courtroom like a lawyer, which I want to be maybe someday, I don't know, journalists were sort of like lawyers in a way. I mean, I'd almost want to present to the jury right off the top what you're talking about. Let's start with Star Wars. We're not going to show it yet. We're not going to get into the evidence quite yet, but let's just say, for the record, Michael, what you're describing is a scene in Star Wars. Tell me the scene in Star Wars that caught your eye the first, and then we'll get into some of the evidence as we go down our list. But I want to make sure that you describe what you remember about Star Wars. Go ahead. Tell me.
Well, one of them is not a particular scene, but I'll go with the particular scene with Darth Vader. You know, we all know, you know, he said, "Luke, I am your father." Like in that same tone, you know, like
Yes.
you can almost hear it in
Luke,
your
I
head.
am your father. Right?
Yeah, you know, and you go and you watch it nowadays, and like the dialogue is just slightly different. And it's
yeah, we're going to get into that. Was there anything else in Star Wars you saw?
C-3PO's leg. That just
Okay, so what Michael's saying is that there was we're going to get right into it. We might as well start now. But again, what Michael was saying, and I want to make sure the viewers get this, is just as a person who knew Star Wars, knew it well, the scene is when revealing in one of the episodes of Star Wars, the early movies, you know, Darth Vader is confronted by Luke Skywalker. And many people remember that the actor, James Earl Jones, playing, you know, Darth Vader said, "Luke, I am your father." Now, we're going to show evidence today in the show that James Earl Jones not only said it, he confirmed it, he reconfirmed it and talked about it like it was a big deal. "Luke, I am your father." Now, we're going to go down a list, Michael. And as we go down this list of evidence, we're going to, you know, get into it. But just I want to make sure that everyone knows about Michael. Michael's a rapper. He's not rapper, I would say more hip-hop artist. He also works in the restaurant business. And I want to make sure they see a shot of Michael in his alter ego of Mr. Hyde. Can we give a little shot of Michael now, just so everyone can see what Mike? There you go. So Michael's in the business. Michael is in what we call the entertainment business. So he understands entertainment, right? Michael, tell us for a second what you think about the entertainment, like the idea that we're dealing with entertainment, and that's how maybe these effects are starting to happen. I mean, would that be an interesting way for you to prove something if you were a scientist playing around? What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. Like, as far as this topic would go, science and entertainment could go hand in hand because both are very, very precise with their work, you know, and we're very, very careful to not have a flaw be seen, you know?
Exactly.
So,
and see, what Michael's saying is if you're an artist and you're selling your creativity and your words or your music or your scenes in a movie and you're a director and you're a writer, of course, you're going to be very exacting. It's not like a one-word change in a famous line or a name in a show or a word in a show, name, would not be lightly taken. If it's changed, it would be a major issue. So we're going to go down the list now of evidence that we called residual evidence or residual effects of the Mandela effects. But that's why we call it residual evidence. The first thing we're going to talk about, now I want to make sure people realize that what Michael and I are going to discuss today is some of this is actual video footage. These shots are so unique and they're like memorial, like memories. They're like literally evidence that you could bring into a courtroom I've cultivated all these video clips from historical sources, and that's going to be the main part of the documentary that I'm now trying to get made here in Hollywood and New York. And what it will be is it'll blow people's minds when they see these clips. But today, because of rights issues and other issues, we're not going to show them. They're fairly exclusive things, so we're not going to show them. But we're going to show some of the still frames of those. So right off the bat, everyone remembers the famous Forrest Gump movie, right? And Forrest Gump had a famous line. He's sitting on the bench. He's talking to this woman, and he's telling the woman how his mom gave him a favorite line to live life by. And the line that most people remember is, Forrest Gump saying, my mama always told me, pardon my bad imitation, my mama always told me, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And I think we've even heard our own family members, before Forrest Gump, make reference to that line. Life is like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're going to get. I want to show people now, Michael, we're going to show them what the line is now. And if you remember it the same way or differently, be sure to, let me know, contact our show, contact us, whatever. But here's a shot I want people to show right now. I will show it right now of him sitting on the bench. You remember, and the line seems to have changed. Now the line is, my mama always told me life was like a box of chocolate. You already live life. You never know what you're going to get. So the words are a little bit funny right away. If you're an English major like me, or you're basically an English writer or whatever, you would know those don't make sense. Life was like a box of chocolate is like past tense. You never know what you're going to get. That's present tense. That's bad writing. Michael, what do you think on that before we show the evidence, the proof of this? You make sense on that?
Yeah, I'm right there with you on this one because, Forrest Gump, man, I love this movie. And I remember as a kid seeing it, we used to kind of make fun of how he said that, because you can't help your sense of humor back then, And, we used to go around saying it, Mom always said life was like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. You know what I mean?
Good. That was much better than me. That exactly the situation. Now, everyone may get a little freaked out by this when they see the video of what we're about to show, but David Letterman, in the 1995 Academy Awards, actually introduced the line. He was complimenting the writing to the effect of, paraphrasing the clip, and we can pull up the clip whenever we want because I want people to see that this clip exists. And Letterman was actually complimenting this line about Forrest Gump. And what he did was he basically said, we've had a great year of writing this year. And in one movie, Forrest Gump, the line, the writer's right. It's important to the industry kind of thing. Life is like a box of chocolate. He says it at the Academy Awards. It's locked in time. It's on live recorded broadcast video that millions and millions we're talking about the Academy Awards. The Academy Awards is almost rivaling in some ways the Super Bowl. It was a major night. If he had gotten that wrong while complimenting the writers about their writing ability, back, Michael, what we were just talking about. So you were saying before, and I think it's so true, that basically people in the entertainment, creative arts, they care a lot about their words, right? So if it was and not is, don't you think they would have reacted? The writers?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so they didn't react.
Change.
So, what was that, Michael?
Yeah.
I'm having a little problem
Yeah,
detecting.
I was just saying it's crazy because one small word can change literally everything. You know, it could throw it all off. You know?
Gotcha. So that was just one example. Now, before we were talking about, Michael was talking about the Star Wars references. This is now some of the most important Mandela residual, either effects or evidence, Star Wars itself. Michael was talking before about when Luke Skywalker was interacting with Darth Vader and the mystery was revealed. And we believe, as millions of people believe in my research, that the scene had James Earl Jones playing the Darth Vader character with the outfit, and he says, "Luke, I am your father." Okay? Now, in the movie, he just says, "No, I am your father." Like, not very dramatically. It's almost like a matter of factly. The scene seems weird. Michael, do you agree? It's kind of a weird. How would you describe that scene now?
Oh, I 100% agree. And like, just watching this scene just feels so wrong to me nowadays. Like, it is, like you said, millions of other people, like, we know, we can even still hear it in our head,
Right.
It's just weird, man. I can't
So
watch it the same way,
I felt the same way, but then the research begins, and we discover that James Earl Jones, the actor, was interviewed twice, at least, on live TV interviews. And I have the video footage of both, but the most important one was on the Today Show. And if we could show just a quick shot of James Earl Jones, I may have gone a little bit out of order here, but I don't think so. Maybe not, no. So James Earl Jones, the story is, and people will see the footage in the, we assume the documentary at some point. The footage shows James Earl Jones being interviewed. And he says something to the effect of, and you see that right there. That's one of the shots. There's more than one. But basically, James Earl Jones is being interviewed about the moment when he basically revealed that he was Luke Skywalker's, there's the line. There's the description. Thank you, Courtney. Very good. So people can see now his own the way he was talking about this. But if we go back to the other shot, the point about that shot is that he's literally describing to the interviewer what it was like. Now, he's covered it two different ways in two different interviews, but it's always the same. First one was, he says, when I saw the line, "Luke, I am your father," I didn't know how they were going to play it out exactly. I don't know how they're going to pull that off and what are they going to do. And a second time, again, he described the line in the script, "Luke, I am your father." So my goal, Michael, is to get James Earl Jones on camera and say, "James, Mr. Jones, what the hell?" I mean, it's not in there anymore. What would you say to James Earl Jones if you were talking to him, Michael?
What would I say to him? I would ask him exactly what we all want to know. Like, has he watched this movie and seen the change from how we all remember even him? And if so, how does he feel like seeing that?
Exactly. We're going to get to the issue of the feelings of the artists or the creative people that the scientists might be kind of screwing around with, if that's the reason this has happened, by some quantum reality shift beyond our wildest imaginations kind of thing. There's another great example. So we're going to go through this now. So David Letterman was also at the Oscars, 1995. And this is the famous movie called Interview with a Vampire. Now I said it again, Interview with a Vampire. Now I'm kind of into like the vampire-y kind of storylines. I remember it very well as being Interview with a Vampire. Who else agrees? Guess who? David Letterman again at the same Academy Awards, complimenting again the great work done on this movie. And the name of the movie is, according to the Academy Award people and the people there, Interview with a Vampire. A vampire, not the vampire. But it gets even more interesting. As you can see in the graphic we have up there right now, and if Courtney, if we can actually try to zoom in, Courtney's a great producer. Courtney, if we can maybe zoom into that bottom part where you see that sheet music, they're calling it, the people speaking, the presenters, Interview with a Vampire. But the sheet music that's kind of rolled in a weird way in this Academy Award is literally The Vampire. So we have a residual complication there. It's one way and it's also the other way. Michael, what do you say to that? Because that's a real mind bender.
Oh, a mind bender it is indeed. This is another big one for me because growing up, this was also like one of my mother's favorite movies, and we used to watch this a lot. And I remember it thoroughly as an Interview with a Vampire.
I'll tell you right now. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry, Michael. I'm sorry.
I was just adding that Anne Rice is a great storyteller.
Well, we're going to go back to that shot, Courtney, for one more moment that we had up a second ago. That's going to be part of the documentary series. If you notice, we have the writer, Anne Rice. She is confirming the name of the book initially was Interview with a Vampire. So I guess 2 out of 3, Interview with a Vampire. Well, actually, go up that image a little bit, and we're going to see Anne, the actual author, and she's up there. She's up there above that, and she's talking about it as Interview with a Vampire. So all these shots are going to be rolled into the documentary just the way we would present it to a lawyer, and a lawyer takes it to court and says, and unlike, I'll say it right now because we're living in the time, unlike claims that the American election of president has, the claim being made is that there's evidence that there was a voting problem with our election, which there appears to be no evidence, and they're still trying to go to court. This would we'd be going to court with real serious evidence. You need to explain. You got to call people in and say, tell us why this evidence exists. Why does this name for the Interview with a Vampire? What's going on here? We'll continue. Same kind of thing. Look, I know for my linear timeline that I've lived, Michael, and everybody watching, the show that we know Sarah Jessica Parker starred in, that kind of gave her a new life as an actress and everything else. Sex in the City. Sex in the City. Now, for some strange, bizarre reason, it's called Sex and the City. I'm just going to mention one thing before we show the evidence that it is and was always Sex in the City to the actors to award people, including Donald Trump and Simon Cowell, famous people. These are people that we can literally go to and ask them about what we're going to show you in a minute. But in the Sex in the City show, okay, we kind of get a feeling just by the name of the show that, I'm from New York, it's a very cool way to kind of get into the idea of having a dual life in the city. You don't need to say and the city. It's almost like weird. Now, the evidence that we're talking about now here, again, we'll start with the actual ABC award show. The award show is giving awards to 3 of the actresses, or 3 of the actresses are up for an award. There they are. Simon Cowell and, before he was president, Donald Trump are giving out the award. The first thing they do is they name the show, Sex in the City. Then the voiceover guy, the announcer, and everyone will see this video in the documentary series, and we'll be asking people, hopefully like even Donald Trump, he'll probably have a little free time on his hands. And Simon Cowell, who always has free time, we hope. We're going to try to get them to explain if they remember it. But no matter what, we have the video. They say Sex in the City. And then the voiceover guy says, the announcer guy, if you pull that up again for one more time, I don't want to get the actress's name wrong because right there. So Kristen, the actress named Kristen there, she is getting named for the award, nomination, Sex in the City. And then the other two actresses were named Sex in the City. So you have 5 different times in a row they say Sex in the City. The announcers, the hosts, and then you see them sitting there and it's Sex in the City. Everyone's got to see this to believe it. Second piece of evidence, I do not have a shot to show today, but we have the clip. We have the video clip. All the actresses that play their parts now and reprise them in the movie Sex in the City are on a talk show. And they're being asked basically by the host of the talk show, so would you like to make another Sex in the City movie? And they all go, oh, I'd love to make another Sex in the City movie. Oh, I'd love to make another Sex in the City movie. Oh, that'd be great. Sex in the City. Over and over again. It's almost unbelievable. So, Michael, I think I told you in our pre-planning of the show, there were people in Hollywood that were so interested by this for the reasons that you mentioned, because these are very famous names of shows, and the name of the show is critical, right? So apparently, and what were you saying, Michael? Sorry.
I was just agreeing with you. I said absolutely.
Okay, I don't mean to steal the show here, but I want to make sure we get all the information. So as I told you, Michael, and I'll get you to react in a minute, when the creator of the show or the people behind the show were contacted in the last couple of years by the Mandela effects experts, researchers, and by the way, anyone can go and see the amazing amount of YouTube videos. Michael's one of the most prolific ones. Before the end of the show, Michael will tell you where you can see his either videos, and I should say more importantly, his Facebook page. That's where I found Michael. But I mean, the bottom line is there are so many videos out there about these things, especially this. So when they contacted some of these researchers, the makers of Sex in the City, they got a very terse, angry, almost threatening them. How dare you say that? Very reactionary, very not, you figure if people think you're crazy, it was always Sex in the City. It was always Sex and the City. What are you talking about? They reacted very angrily, as I understand it. Michael, have you heard about any of that? And even if you haven't, what do you think of them reacting strangely, nervous and angry? What do you make of that?
I mean, Sex in the City was very, very popular, and just changing that one word just changes the whole ring. It throws it all off, like Sex in the City has a very distinctive ring to it. And, working in the entertainment business, like it's very, very important to be precise,
And what do you make of the fact they reacted, at least my understanding is, so angrily when asked this question?
Oh, it's so hard to believe, It's so like I can really understand how they must have felt. Like it's just like how we felt, like experiencing our own personal effects,
Yeah, it's like I made these shows, fact or fiction, and if I went to my shows and I saw fact and fiction or some fact versus fiction, I'd freak out. I'd say, no, that's not what I did. That's not what was on the air, And so my feeling is they reacted angrily because they were confused and they didn't know why they were being asked that question. And also it probably triggered a little bit of uncomfortableness because like I said, I have this evidence that we could present to them. So my goal would be eventually to show them these clips and say, it's not our imagination. It's not, just people on the internet, YouTube people, researchers. It's documented by Donald Trump, by Simon Cowell, by their own actresses' appearances on talk shows. It's a no-brainer. The question is, how did it happen? But we'll throw some more evidence out there, and then we'll get into some of the reasons this may have happened. So we were talking before about Star Wars, and we talked about Luke, I am your father. What about CP3O, that robotic dude? I mean, tell us what you know. And Courtney, if we could put up the graphic right now of CP3O, where you can see the figure. Now, Michael, you know the figures that they make, the live action figures off of Star Wars, they're supposed to be acting like replicas of what was in the movie. So I remember CP3O being one consistent gold color. That's what I remember. People now say he's got a silver leg. And what? The replica is supposed to be exacting to the movie. But the replica is all gold. Michael, what do you say? That's proof to me that it was gold originally. No leg, no one leg being silver. What do you make of it?
Oh yeah, the residual evidence is definitely very shocking. Even the people that wouldn't know Star Wars, like there's an obvious change there. But like for someone like myself, like I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I watch these movies all the time ever since I was a kid. I watch them religiously, you know. And C-3PO, he was always gold in the original trilogy. There's no way that his one leg was silver. Like, there's just no way. I would have known. And you know what I mean? And a lot of people feel the same way.
Yeah, you know? And here it gets really interesting because we have a shot, it'll be in the documentary, but here's a still shot of at the 1978 Academy Award. Let me see what awards it was. I believe it was the Academy Awards. They had a big CP3O come in. Big CP3O standing next to the presenter. Now, he's apparently, if you zoom in, Courtney, to the legs, you'll see that the debate among Mandela effects experts is that it might be one continuous gold outfit he's wearing, but maybe that other leg, I guess the right leg, or the left leg, as we see it on the right side, is silver. The lighting is tough to see, but if it is, it's the wrong leg. So even if that is indeed confirming at one time in our history or timelines or whatever that there was a multicolored leg issue with CP3O, it's not the right leg according to the movie. It doesn't match. If you show the two together, you can see it. Mike, what do you make of that?
You know, that footage right there, that picture, it's crazy for me to even look at that because, like I said, knowing the entertainment business, all right, Star Wars is one of the biggest franchises ever known to this planet, you know? So with all that money behind there, you would think they'd be very accurate on their depiction in and out of these films, you know? And what might be a small mistake, you know, that's huge, man. Like
I hear you. And by the way, we're having a little technical difficulty, so if Michael's hard to hear a little, we apologize, but it's the Zoom world we live in. So I want to, and Mike was so great to be part of the show, which I really appreciate. So the question is how, you know, just working with our issues in Zoom world. But the reality I want to bring people back to is there are so many examples. Here's another one, my favorite one. This is my favorite because I love baseball. My boys are teenagers. They love baseball. They're both great. One of my boys is making baseball his career. I'm a baseball guy. He's not a player, but maybe front office, general manager kind of guy. He wants to be general manager of the Mets, New York guy that I am. So I love baseball. Great movie, Field of Dreams. Field of Dreams is a favorite to so many people who love baseball, who don't love baseball, but it's a great, like, feel-good movie, right? Kevin Costner, he's a farmer, he's going bankrupt, and all of a sudden he hears a voice in the field one day, and he hears, in my world, Courtney, can we show the graphic? In my world, it's, a voice says, if you build it, they will come. If you build it, they will come. Now, I know that movie. Michael, you know this movie. I mean, for so many reasons, there are so many photographs, memes, if you will, before there were memes and it was not a word we use, memorializations of the term in our society of, if you build, they will come. It's one of the most famous lines. Just to give you a recent reference, there's a Mercedes company here in Southern California. Last 2 years, they've been running a commercial at the start of baseball season, at least last year and the year before, not this year because of COVID probably, but they actually say, if we build it, they will come. If we build it, they will come. There are so many examples of they will come. The movie now has Kevin Costner. And I say it like that because I'm not crazy. I say it's not the same as it was. Kevin Costner is in the field and the voice comes in and it doesn't sound the same to me either. Like it's a different voice they used. If you build it, he will come. He will come. Now look, I'm Jewish. I'm also leaning a little bit toward Christ lately. We'll get into that later. If I hear the word he, I'm thinking religious. If you build it, he will come. I mean, he is in the Bible, he. So the question really is, I wouldn't be thinking he. Who's he? They sets up the players are coming. And then later on, the people that save the farm are coming because they want to come to be around the field. So, Michael, what do you make of this? It doesn't even make sense to many people. The movie just is so different now. What do you make of it?
I agree with you 100%. It's very, very different. I'm very familiar with this movie as well. And like the plot, it changes the whole plot because, when the voices said, if you build it, they will come, they were referring to the baseball team, the whole team. And the whole twist of the movie was his father coming out with them. That was the twist. That was the added
at the end, right? And I want people to hear what you just said, Michael. Twist. It was a twist. It was like, oh yeah, the father. He also liked baseball too. Wasn't a professional, but maybe they didn't have the times to play baseball enough. They didn't have a time to really get to know each other. And okay, it was a nice little moment at the end, but that was not the movie. The movie was he's thinking about building a field. You're not building who's going to motivate you to build a field for one ghost to come? Or one person to come. You're going to build a baseball field based on someone telling you, if you build it, he will come. Who, the pitcher? The catcher? You're going to build an entire field for this guy? It doesn't make sense. So I plan to go talk to Kevin Costner about this. Now, I had a very interesting conversation with a very nice guy I know. He's a writer. He's a writer of mysteries and paranormal and studies it and all that. He's a radio guy as well. He tried to convince me, Michael, that there could be an explanation. There might be an explanation. He remembers the movie being much more about the father. And I'm like, no. Do you remember the father being a big part of the show? The movie?
Not at all. Not at all.
Me either. In fact,
it was like.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Sorry, Mike.
I was just going to say, like, the addition of the father being presented was just added effect to the twist. It made it deeper,
That's what I thought. And it wasn't like 2 hours earlier in the movie, it's like the movie's a 2-hour movie, 2 hours, an hour, 45 minutes earlier, the word he was said. And now it all makes sense?
Yeah.
That movie I would not be talking about as one of my favorite movies if that's how they played it out. But anyway, people should go see it. There's a guy on the internet. I don't have his YouTube handle right now. Couldn't find him. I'm going to try to find him for the documentary series. He was going ballistic a couple of months ago. A couple of years ago. Probably still is doing it. Saying how he had a tape of the movie under his bed. And he went to the tape. He's watched it so many times. And when he watched it again, now it's not the same movie anymore. Now, look, he can't prove, of course, that he was watching it 15 years ago, and it was one way, and now it changed. And I think someone made the reference, and then some of the comments, maybe the government came in, replaced the tape, and and it's ridiculous. But the bottom line is, we have people that are going to swear that they had a tape on their shelf. They watched it so much years ago. They loved it. They play that tape now. It's different. And I've even heard people saying, because we are conspiracy theory truth finders, right? The conspiracy, Michael, is there's a group of people out there, commandos, if you will, going into people's houses, slipping in the middle of the night and replacing these tapes. It's insane. But what do you make of that, Michael? Pretty crazy, right? But it's out there. I'm sure you've heard about that.
I mean, you could take the most tactical special forces agent and like people are still going to notice that, like if someone's coming in to swap a VHS tape, you're going to know.
You'll notice somebody slurking in the middle of the night. Like the tape. That's funny. But Michael, just get back to some of the evidence. Then we're going to get to some of the causes and wrap this up, because it's a pretty crazy story, right? So, by the way, everybody at home can go and look into these things, and your mind's going to get blown a little. But I want to put a little cautionary moment in here. Maybe you're on one timeline and Mike and I are on another, or maybe I'm on partly one and you're on partly another. But we'll talk about that issue about quantum physics and parallel universes and all toward the end. But let's look at some more of the evidence. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm just not going to date myself, whatever age-wise. But let's just say I remember years ago we had Oscar, you know what? I'm going out of order. I want to make sure I get in order properly, build this up properly. Let's talk about first the Fantasyland book. For many people, including me as a kid, I know it was a cartoon. I remember seeing it a lot, and a kind of an animated series, an animated movie, right? Famous line, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? I mean, I'm not even I'm not a girl. I'm not into mirrors. But I knew that line, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? This is a book called Fantasyland. They memorialized the famous line. It's in the book. It's there. Go find it now. Anywhere else. Almost anywhere else. It's now magic mirror on the wall. Magic mirror on the wall? I don't even understand the concept, because to me, it was mirror, mirror on the wall. And the book shows you. It's an old book. Mirror, mirror on the wall. Michael, what's your thoughts?
This one's crazy for me as well, and the particular reason why is because I remember it very, very thoroughly. And, it's one of those things that a countless number of musical artists and a countless number of actors have referenced this time and time and time and time again.
In music and lyrics, right? Mirror, mirror. Yeah.
Yeah. How can so many people be wrong?
Yeah. And by the way, who's just as a writer, because I'm a writer too, an English person, you're going to know mirror, mirror on the wall, repeating it twice, is a lot different than magic mirror on the wall. There's two different ways of going about that whole entire creative process. So we have proof again. Everything we're showing today has some proof. You can go into a courtroom and say, I can't explain it, judge, jury, but I got evidence that it was mirror, mirror on the wall to at least some people way back at the earlier stage of this society's entertainment. Something changed. Continuing the same process, same idea. There's something called I don't even know how to say the word. I'll say Berenstein Bears. I don't know this that well because I didn't come across this raising my two boys. We didn't exactly come across this bear book series. But take a look at this. I can't even pronounce that other way. If you can, great. In TV Guide, they listed as Berenstein Bears. The odds, I grew up studying TV Guide. That's why I went to television. Studying TV Guide, Michael. I was studying like what's coming on the next day. I don't remember one single time that they made a mistake of the name of a show. Here it says Berenstein Bears. But if you look to the left there, that's what they call this. I can't even pronounce that properly. I don't even know what the name that is. Take a look at the next shot we're going to show you. Somebody was able to find a video, VHS video of the Berenstein Bears. I'm going to stick with that because the sleeve on the outside of the tape has it one way and the inside little label has it another way. I don't even understand the concept. Now, this was heavily analyzed, believe it or not, for forensic photoshopping. Doesn't seem to be any. My producers and I were trying to track down the owner of the tape so that we can get the tape itself into the show, into the documentary. Michael, again, just like the we showed with the movie Interview with the Vampire or a Vampire, it's like a glitch. We've got both there, right? What do you make of that, Michael? Both.
This one just blows my mind because, like, you know, someone who is putting together a product, you want it to be presented correctly, and there's a lot of money behind that. So for mistakes like that to happen, it's very unfortunate, and it looks unprofessional, you know.
Yeah. At the very least, and again, that will be, again, Michael, that will be the what we call the prosaic, simple explanation that somebody just got it wrong and made a mistake. But now we got multiple mistakes. In other words, TV Guide made a mistake. That only never happens. About the name of a show.
Yeah.
You know, I imagine you get the producers suing TV Guide, almost something like that, almost.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you got, right? And then you got this, which is not exactly proof because we don't have the physical tape to analyze and what company put it out and how many of those tapes did they make. And so that's a little differently presented as evidence, but we would still break that down. Continuing, everyone may remember the product Febreze. Febreze. By the way, there's a whole section of this. There'll probably be an entire one episode on just products, names that have changed, logos that have changed. I had a Ford Mustang up until very recently. I love the car like you have no idea. The Ford logo never had that little almost fun little serif almost like in the logo. We don't show it today, but same way. Let's take a look at what Febreze, the product Febreze, looks like now. I mean, Febreze. It used to be, as I remember it, Michael. How was it in your mind, Michael? Tell me.
With me, it was definitely breeze spelled the right way, you know, Febreze, you know, because it was wordplay. It was a play on the word breeze with Febreze, you know?
Exactly. Why would you never? I love what you just said, Michael. Creatively, if you're naming a product, why are you going to go out of your way to misspell breeze? Why are you going to do that? Was there another product out there called Febreze and you wanted to kind of like, I don't think so. I never heard that issue. I remember Febreze at college, you need it. Sometimes don't spell so good. I remember Febreze being spelled breeze. I don't know. I mean, maybe I can't prove that one quite as easily, but I believe that's there, and we'll look at that too. Here's one I love, though. This is the one that I love. I grew up hearing the commercial. I'll sing it the best way I can, but don't laugh at me, people. Oh, I wish I was an Oscar Mayer wiener. That is what I truly want to be. Because if I was an Oscar Mayer wiener, everyone would be in love with me. Now it's Oscar Mayer. Oscar Mayer. Can we just see what that looks like? Oscar Mayer. I had a guy on the phone yesterday, 2 days ago, I mean. Very good guy in the business. I like a lot, good friend, work with him, colleague. He says, Bob, I remember it being Mayer. I'm from that part of the world, I guess, where Oscar Mayer, I even say that Oscar Mayer, M-E-Y-E-R. There's another part of this whole Mayer thing. He claims it was always Mayer. In his mind, in his timeline, it was Mayer. But I can tell you that Oscar Mayer, Meyer, had another distinction. Remember the commercial? My Baloney has a first name. It's Oscar. My Baloney has a second name. Meyer.
Mm-hmm.
Never Mayer. Oscar Mayer. And I always feel, as I'm saying in my documentary, as I presented the treatment lately, that if you were a kid like me growing up in New York, and I like bologna, I like hot dogs, I like everything, maybe not those that much, but whatever. I would remember it being Oscar Mayer, like maybe the mayor of New York. I was very into the idea as a kid about the mayor. And so if you say Oscar Mayer, like people are making references to John Mayer, the singer, I mean, it's a different way. What do you make of it, Michael? Because you're a little bit younger than me, but what do you make of that?
Oh, I remember it the same exact way that you do. Because, like, even in my younger days, I've heard those commercials. The play on the word and the one where he spelled it out. That's the one I remember the most. And there was a hip hop artist that actually made a song about a lot of Mandela effects. I'll have to send you a link for that.
Oh, we want to see that. See, Michael's a wealth of knowledge, and he's in the business as Mr. Hyde. And be sure to listen to his music and get into Michael's other alter ego, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, not Mr. Mayor. That's good too, Mr. Hyde. But maybe Mr. Mr. Mayor. But anyway, I just want to make sure everyone realizes we can go on and on and on with this, and that'll be the documentary. Let's get into the alleged reasons this has happened. Michael, tell us what you know about the CERN particle collider and why people maybe think this is a reason this has happened.
Well, the CERN particle collider, it is pretty fascinating, but science is pushing the envelope with this one, and they're trying to recreate the Big Bang, and to study it, and that's all well and good, but there's things that are occurring because of this happening, and I really think that this stems off of that.
All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try my best to explain what I know about it, Michael, and you tell me what you think. My understanding is that when the collider was started up, there were all kinds of warnings. Courtney, can we pull up the shot from the Wall Street Journal that the Wall Street Journal was warning us through a major headline of what CERN might be doing or CERN might be planning? This is pretty freaky, everybody, and I want to say a little disclaimer now. What they're talking about in the Wall Street Journal, if we could see that whole headline, kind of scroll that thing and see the picture, they're claiming CERN could be opening up portals and letting in some not such nice entities. Now, I did some research, and I spoke to a lot of people. And apparently, as Michael said, CERN had a goal of trying to get close to what the Big Bang was. So they have this particle collider smashing different things, smashing, at the very quantum level, particles. And they're hoping to create the right kind of effect that will be similar to the Big Bang. As they get closer to those experiments, what I'm hearing from CERN, and we'll show one picture from a scientist that seems to be confirming it, he could be crazy, but he's confirming it, that as they get closer, they're affecting the quantum field. They're making changes. Things are coming in. I'm not going to say they're demons, but there's some reference to the fact these could be not such nice entities. And in the quantum world, that would be like, oh my God, what do you mean that when you start dealing with the quantum field, You might be triggering changes in the universe, changes in our time-space continuum. Maybe we have a parallel universe right next to ours, and somehow the concept seems to be for the Mandela effect. And there's a scientist. Check this out. Scientist is sitting in his CERN office, essentially, apparently, and he wants the world to know they're making the Mandela effect, or they're associated with the Mandela effect. So he has a sign there holding up, you'll see, where basically this one sign is saying Bond number 1, James Bond, which we'll get to in a minute. I know Michael's got something great to say about the James Bond movie franchise. James Bond number 1 had the first name Nelson, apparently. I've not verified all of it, but I think that's what I'm hearing. And then he has the name Mandela. So Bond number 1, James Bond number 1, who played the part of James Bond, or the actual character's name was Nelson. I'll look into that. That's why he's saying Nelson Mandela. And if you can read the little sign underneath that, he's basically making fun of like we may be associated with this whole thing. Pretty weird. Why would a scientist do that? Why would he give credence to the fact that maybe they've altered it? Now, Michael, you had an interesting theory. What's your theory about CERN and how they maybe have affected this? Was it an accident? Whatever. What do you think may have happened here?
It could be a couple things that would rationalize it. You know, like it could have been an accident, and all these effects are just, you know, the effects of what's been going on with the experiments. Or it could also be, you know, like they said, they're trying to open up a portal. You know, that could be another thing that disturbs reality. And, you know, maybe the parallel universes are collapsing in together. And, you know, that theory in itself kind of pokes fun at, you know, things, because, you know, you think about black holes and stuff like that, and it could be a reason for that to exist. You know, everything's sucking itself inside itself, and everything coming together. And, you know,
well, let me try to sum it up for everyone today, Michael, because it would be very hard for you to explain it, but you're like very knowledgeable about it. What I'm going to try to do is sum it up. So quantum physics indicates to scientists that you could have two different parallel universes, or parallel, like almost like imagine a book. And the book has all these pages closely together, right? A book. Mm-hmm. And those pages are like touching each other almost, right? They're touching each other. And just like a thin page, there could be another dimension right next to us, another Michael, another Bob, right next to us, paralleling life just like we're living right now. I'm talking right now, and the other guy's talking right now, just like I am. Me, other Bob. But somehow they got in there between the two and somehow adjusted it so that some of those creative ideas that were being thought about at one time, maybe in the quantum field, or actually exist in the other parallel universe, merged together one moment somehow. And so we have two overlapping parallel universes together. And that's what's causing this effect, because as some people remember it one way, some remember it another way, and maybe some of these things have kind of blended together. It's a mishmash, and our world's not the same. I want to add that we're going to look into in the documentary series, people that think the continents of the world are in different places, adjusted a little bit. Australia, the area around Australia, other areas. Pretty freaky, and there's some evidence, residual evidence like we've shown today on that. But getting to the conspiracy theory, which is what we are about here, conspiracy theory, you know, truth finders, there appears to be a machine called the quantum computer. It's the D-Wave computer. And there's a gentleman behind this. I'm not going to name him today, but he gave the equivalent of a TED conference about his D-Wave. We'll just call him Gordy. And Gordy said the D-Wave computer was going to be able to do a lot of things. And the indication was D-Wave exists 2 or 3 different places. They have the computers. NASA has one, is working with one anyway. There's one here in Southern California, I believe, which I'm trying to get to that I could see. And apparently some people believe this could be like some kind of alien god, because these machines can change reality by using quantum, very complicated effects, and maybe it's tied somehow to CERN. The idea is that CERN may need some assistance in calibrating the quantum effects they're getting, and the D wave's been brought in to analyze, because keep in mind the term quantum. It's many. There could be, the idea of quantum physics is simple. I'll say it once for us, Michael, and we'll wrap it up on this. They did studies years ago, and they found out at the quantum level, very, very small level, that when you look at something, it's a wave, just a wave. I mean, when you don't look at it, it's a wave. But when you look at it, it might become a particle. The same thing. So somehow, and that's probably a really bad quantum explanation. Sorry for the scientists out there, but we'll get the right guys on the right time. It's sort of like the person observing can create the reality, can affect the reality. What do you make of that, Michael? What's your view of quantum physics? Let's hear it one time from you.
My view on this, it's a really scary thought, because, you got these D-Wave computers, which are very capable of doing things far beyond our imagination, and what I think is partnered with these colliders, these particle colliders, what's not to say that's not amplifying their power to do what they need to do. To change everything across the globe.
Right. Sorry about that.
And that kind of technology, if they were very successful in doing these things, what's not to say it could be weaponized and used against us,
Right. And I want to make sure Michael knows a few biblical verses that have changed. And I want to end on that issue, because I'm going to tell you one little spiritual thing about me that's been happening. And I want to give a warning today to everybody as well. Not to add to the conspiracy theory, which would be they know they're doing this. They're kind of testing society's ability to deal with these changes, like all the ones we went through today. If they are really changed, fact or fiction, is it real? I don't know. Seems to me a real effect, but it looks like the Bible's involved. Could you give us one, Michael, one famous biblical passage that's been changed and you can't get your head around it? It's freaking you out?
Oh yeah, one of the most common, the majority would remember as it was the lion that laid with the lamb. And if you look in any of the King James versions, it's the wolf that now lays with the lamb, and that's really unsettling, because the wolf was depicted as the one, the deceitful one. He was the demon and the devil, a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Right. That's crazy. Pretty scary stuff, because again, if you're out there trying to show you can do the changes to our time frame, to our reality, and you choose a biblical passage that involves maybe even the other side, the dark side, if you will, it's a little freaky. And then, of course, last but not least, CERN does have a there's no other way to put it, a statue outside their main area. And the statue memorializes the destroyer of worlds and the remaker of worlds. And there are even videos the scientists have made that pay homage to satanic stuff. Now, what's going on? Why would the scientists be talking like that? Now, I want to make sure we're clear today about one thing. Everybody watching, Michael, Courtney, everybody. If the quantum field is something we can create and we affect the quantum field, one expert I interviewed last night who did not come on the show, she's very interesting and she might be in the documentary series. She warned me, she's very religious. She warned me that if we give credence to the idea that CERN is creating a demonic portal, that beings come in when you get closer to the Big Bang God, when you're closer to God, if you will, the creation, you get closer to these demons, if you will. If that's true, then we need to be really good consumers of what I'm saying today in this streamcast. And it is this: think positive thoughts. Don't play into this conspiracy theory that they're doing these things to bring in demons, and even if they aren't doing it on purpose and they noticed it, they're not stopping. One last thing for the day. Apparently, when the CERN collider is operating, it creates, for the first time on our planet that I'm aware of, antimatter. Actual antimatter. Thought to be theoretical, and now it turns out to be real. They are storing this antimatter. Antimatter, one little speck of antimatter would have the power of nuclear bombs. People who, like the warning from the Wall Street Journal, if we could show it again one more time, the Wall Street Journal was more, if you read the article, was warning that we're letting things get out of control. We might be playing with fire. We might be doing things we shouldn't be doing, because there are people who thought that when you turn the particle collider on in Switzerland, you're going to maybe create the end of the world. Now, the end of the world hasn't happened, but maybe little bits of that might be starting. I want everyone to know that I was raised Jewish, but I've been getting closer to Jesus Christ, to be honest with you guys. And I mean, it's pretty wild that a Jew would be thinking about being closer to Jesus Christ, but I've done my own TV shows dealing with miracles tied to Jesus and Mary, Virgin Mary. I've shown the famous Shroud of Turin, which might actually be the burial cloth of Jesus Christ when he may be resurrected through supernatural whatever. So if indeed quantum physics is real, let's think about Christianity. Christ said, if you believe in me, you will be with me. If you don't believe in me, you won't be with me. So I guess it's the intention. And the intention appears to be what quantum physics is all about. Michael, you want to wrap it up? I hate to get too religious, but I'm warning people, if quantum physics, I'm not warning you. I'm letting the nice reverend who I interviewed yesterday, who didn't come on the show, she wants us to know. She's warning us. I take the warning seriously because we don't want to trigger more negativity and possibilities like we're getting warned about. Michael, what do you make of that on the way out of the show? Tell me what you think.
Well, as far as religion, I believe it's all perception, I believe everyone's right, it just in their own way, in their own perception, and I do believe there's a balance in life, good and evil, it all shares the same principles, and what CERN and all them's doing, like, I just don't think it's something they should be doing, because like that lady said, you're trying to play God, kind of, and that's not man's job. That's not man's job, Although, we have curiosity. We want to know things, and it's understandable, but I think they need to know when to stop. You know what I mean?
So well put. Michael, I'll tell you, that's a scary and great kind of combination warning, because as we go out today on this show, the idea that we have the ability to affect the reality, and maybe we all need to think very seriously about what you said, that it may all be true. If you believe a certain positive religion aspect, whatever you may be, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Hindu, whatever your religion is, whatever your beliefs are, if they're positive and focused to good things, maybe you're creating that. And on that note, I hope we're creating a positive thing. We just gave possibilities. Please, everyone, take the reverend I mentioned seriously. She made a very big impact on me last night, although she's not on the show. But we'll talk about that some other day, and maybe in the documentary series. Michael, it's great. to have you on the show. I know we had some technical difficulties. That's why you're seeing more of a photo of Michael. That's his Mr. Hyde alter ego there. And be sure, tell us, Michael, your audio is good at least. We're glad about that Zoom issue. What do you want us to know about your work? Where can we find your music? Talk to us. Tell us tell us what you need to say.
Well, for those who might not know, I am Mr. Hyde of Beast Mode Division. That's what BMD stands for. It's a duo group. It's me and my cousin. We operate under Vampire Music. And what I got going on nowadays, I have 2 albums I'm about to release at the end of the year. And I dropped a lot of great singles off of it. One of them in particular is called What I'm Destined to Be, which also features Sticky Fingers of Onyx and C-Ball of Brain Sick Music. Very good stuff, and you guys can just easily Google search or YouTube or anything, and you'll see all kinds of everything.
Sounds great. And where can they find that? Just is there an easy way? We'll put it into a link or something if you give it to us, but we want to direct our viewers.
Yeah. Just go to Mr. Hyde of BMD on YouTube.
Cool. Well, Michael, thanks a lot. We really appreciate it. You've been great. We know how much you made it happen here, and again, we can't always be perfect with our techno. It's a rough world we're living right now. I watch the news often, and someone goes off, and they come back, and it's the same thing. But thank you so much, Michael. We'll be in touch, and everybody, that'll wrap it up today for Conspiracy Truth Finders of me, Bob Kiviat. We have some really great shows coming, so please keep in touch. Watch us. We're releasing, I guess, Wednesdays, and take a look at us. We'll keep it coming. Goodbye, everybody.